With lower down payment requirements and lower credit score requirements, FHA loans are very popular. We see a lot of them here in purchase contracts here on the Central Coast. They're popular with first-time home buyers, and with our generally pretty high prices of homes here on the Central Coast, that low down payment standard is very beneficial to a lot of people. However, there is a very important piece of the puzzle that needs to be discussed, and that is the topic of today's video. That is the FHA appraisal process. Stick around. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Christian Tiessen. I'm with Hubbell Real Estate here on the Central Coast of California. And on this channel, we cover everything real estate related here on the Central Coast. Before we go on, I have created a checklist to go along with this video. So, if you're a buyer or you're a seller looking to sell your property, or you're looking to buy a property and use an FHA loan, there's a checklist that I've created that goes along with what the appraisers are looking for when they are on an FHA appraisal call. First, let's just talk about a couple definitions. First of all, what is an FHA loan? Very simply, an FHA loan is the government insuring the loan to the bank. So they are making sure that because the bank is allowing lending to a higher risk client, a higher risk borrower, the government wanting to incentivize home ownership is going to insure that loan in case of default. Next, what is an appraiser? An appraiser or an appraisal is simply someone that works on behalf of the bank. They go out and they make sure that the value of the property is in line with the purchase price. So the bank, does not want to be buying or loaning on a property for $600,000 when the property is only worth $550,000. They want to make sure they're making a solid investment and they're not underwater in their loan right away. Now, as I mentioned before, FHA appraisal is a little bit different. They are kind of a hybrid between an appraiser and an inspector. They work on both behalf of the bank and the federal government. They want to make sure that the house is in good condition as well. So they're going to inspect the property as well as look for the value of the property. So that is one thing that is very different from a normal appraiser is if things get flagged, certain things get flagged during this appraisal and inspection process, the loan will be put on hold until those things are taken care of. What do the appraisers look for when they're out at the house? It's important to understand that they're primarily concerned with health and safety issues. They want to make sure that these buyers, when they're getting a property, they're not going to move into a house where there's mold everywhere, where there's no heat in the house, where there's going to be a hazard to the new buyers. So that is the main concern of these appraisers as far as the inspection side goes, is health and safety. What are some examples of that? Foundation. They want to make sure there's no major cracks that are going to cause a structural problem. They want to make sure there's not major leaks in the roof that are going to cause mold or water to be seeping into the house. They want to make sure there's not major plumbing leaks. I've heard that some of these things they've been a little bit more lax with in recent years. Like for instance, minor little leaks under a sink, something like that, they might overlook. But if there's something that's dumping water, they're going to call that out. A big one is bedrooms. There needs to be an egress in the bedroom. And what an egress is just simply a place where people can escape. So if a bedroom is on the interior of a house, it doesn't have any exterior windows or doors, that's going to be a problem for FHA appraisers. If there's a fire, if there's a flood, someone needs to escape, they can't go into the house to escape. They need to be able to go to the exterior of the house to escape. Another big one that gets called out a lot is anytime there's any steps or stairs, there needs to be a handrail present. This, again, if you just think about it, it's health and safety type stuff. Some of them are kind of silly. Even if there's one stair, that might be a problem. Another big one is in houses built before 1978, there is the potential for lead-based paint. So there can't be chipped or peeling paint. Kind of similarly on the outside, there can't be bare exposed wood on the outside of the house. The wood can't be touching the ground on the outside of the house because this has a potential to bring in mold, to have dry rot, to bring in moisture, and cause problems with the house in a short amount of time. They want to make sure also that the roof has a reasonable amount of utility. Reasonable is kind of a gray area, but what that means is basically they want to make sure that the roof isn't going to have to be replaced in the next 6 months. Again, gray area on the timelines, but reasonable utility. It has to have reasonable usefulness into the future. I want to bring up something here real quick, and that is that you'll notice that many of these things are pretty easy fixes. They're not going to be necessarily deal breakers. Some of them may be for buyers and sellers, but Not always. They might not always be a deal breaker. They could be easy to remedy. Fixing paint, if there's a back deck that needs to be repainted, or there's handrails that need to be put up. These are relatively easy fixes that probably won't make a deal fall apart, although they might. A very important note here is that the FHA appraisal stays with the property for a certain amount of time. I believe it's 90 days, but I'm not positive on that. Don't quote me. Maybe I'll put it down in the description here. But the FHA appraisal stays with the house. So if the seller doesn't want to do anything to the property to remedy some of these fixes or these problems, and they cancel the contract falls through, and the next buyer comes in that has an FHA loan, they're going to have those same problems with the next buyer. So that is something to be aware of, especially if you're a seller. Be aware that these appraisals do stay with the house. If you are a buyer or seller, I did create this checklist. We went over some of the basics here, but the checklist will be a little bit more thorough. It's not necessarily going to cover every single point, but it'll give you a good idea of what they're looking for. If you're a seller and your home is in the first-time home buyer kind of price point, you will definitely want to get a look at this checklist, because it's probably likely that you're going to get an FHA loan. Like I said, they're very common. So click the link in the description. We'll send it right to your email, and we'll go from there. Again, my name is Christian Tiessen with Hubbell Real Estate here on the Central Coast. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, feel free to reach out. My number is 805-459-9834. Looking forward to talking to you all soon.